Good evening, guys. These are notes for tomorrow night, and this is going to be on page 18 and 19 of our notebooks. This side is going to be our properties of real numbers, and this side is going to be our expression vocabulary. So let's get started on page 18. A lot of these words you're actually going to already be familiar with. So when I do get started, you can always work ahead if you'd like to. So the commutative property talks about, if you look at the word commute, it means that you can kind of move, or you can change order of an addition problem or a multiplication problem. So right here we're going to say commutative property, so we're going to change order. And then Liz is talking to Max, Max is talking to Liz. It means the same thing. So in math, over here, some examples, 6 plus 8 is also equivalent to 8 plus 6. 9 times 3 is equivalent to 3 times 9. So A plus B is also equivalent to B plus A. And then C times D is also equivalent to D times C. So they are equivalent expressions. All right, the next word that we have is the associative property. And this is talking about how you associate or you group with people. So to associate with different groups, you're going to move the parentheses. And then here's just a real world, you associate with different groups of friends. So over here, this math problem, 4 plus 8 in parentheses plus 2 is the same using associative property as 4 plus 8 plus 2. So we were able to regroup. Instead of having the parentheses around the 4 and the 8, now we have it around the 8 and the 2. Multiplication, same thing. So 7 times 6 times 5 is 7 times 6 times 5. And this only works with addition and multiplication. And then again, just regroup it. And then just again, regroup it. Okay. All right, our next one is the additive and multiplicative identity property. These are two different properties, so please pay attention to the difference. When you add 0 or multiply by 1, you're keeping that number's identity. So it's like looking into a mirror. So the additive identity property means when I add 0, I keep that same number. So this would give me 821. The multiplicative identity property is when I multiply by 1 and get that same number. So negative A plus 0 gives me negative A, and then B times 1 gives me B. All right, the next property is, well, it's not a property. Well, it is a property. It's a rule. The inverse of addition and multiplication. Pretty much when you add the opposite, you get 0. So those were our additive inverse pairs, or our 0 pairs that we talked about earlier this quarter. So you add the opposite to get 0, and you multiply by the reciprocal to get 1. And remember, reciprocal is when you flip the numerator and the denominator. So you switch them around. All right. So in order for me to get 0, I have to do 15 plus negative 15, because that's that additive inverse. So those make a 0 pair. For this to get 1, I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. So 4 times 1 over 4 gives me 1. Another additive inverse, b plus negative b, gives me 0. And then what times 3/8 gives me 1? Well, the opposite of 3/8 would be 8/3. Or excuse me, the reciprocal of 3/8 would be 8/3. Then that would give me 1. All right. The next property is the multiplicative property of 0. So when you multiply by 0, what do you get? So any number multiplied by 0 is, the S got dropped off, equal to 0. Excuse me. So 0 times 1/4 is 0. 190 times 0 is 0. 0 times k is 0. And 0 times negative g is 0. So that one's pretty easy. You guys have probably known that for quite some time. All right. The next one, distributive property. You guys know about this one. So this is when we're going to distribute. We're going to give out. We're going to multiply. So distribute, so it means to give out. Just like you would distribute candy at Halloween, you're going to give out candy. The outside number gets distributed, multiplied to each number inside the parentheses. And some examples are over here. So 6 parentheses 30 plus 5 is actually 6 times 30 plus 6 times 5. So that's distributing it onto both terms on the inside of the parentheses. So this is actually 8 times 20 minus 8 times 1. This is x times y minus x times z. And this is 12a times 6 plus 12a times 7. And last piece of this is going to be the examples. So let's do those together. So it just wants us to name that property. So 8 plus 21 plus 12 is the same as 8 plus 12 plus 21. So the order didn't matter and which property is that. That would be the commutative property. Well, you know what? How about this? I'm actually going to let you guys do 1 through 6 and then just use your chart up here to finish that. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to make a second video for our expression vocabulary.